When are you going to decide that you actually can think for yourself? When are you going to decide that every single thought that comes into your mind is not real? Does that sound crazy to you? Think about it. Think about all the thoughts that come into your mind. And it's just like their thoughts just running by. And you got to choose where you're going to be like, oh, nope, I want that one to stay. Come back. And that one needs to stay right here, right? It doesn't need to. You get to decide what you give truth to. Does that make sense? Hi, Janna here. Thank you all for joining me today. Hope that you're having a really great day. Can you guys believe that it's October already? Like, where is this year gone? How has it gone by so fast? I absolutely love the fall. I live here in Texas where we don't always really have the weather for for fall. It's pretty much still hot, but it's cooled off a little bit, so that's been really really nice. And I hope wherever you live that the weather's great for you. Um, so we're coming into the end of this year, right? We got like 3 months left, and I want you to think about if you have achieved all of your goals this year, right? What goals did you set for yourself at the end of last year, or maybe the beginning of this year? Hell, maybe it was in March or May. I don't know. But where are you with your goals, right? I don't believe that there's a one size fits all when it comes to, you have to set goals at the beginning of a year and you have to the end of the year to achieve it. I don't believe that necessarily. I believe that at any time you can come up with a goal, right? Like, I really dislike the saying where people say, oh, I'll start my diet on Monday. What's so special about Mondays? I would love to know. And it's always like, well, here comes the weekend, so I got to give up my eating. What's so special about the weekends, right? What is it that we have put these labels on? And so I think that's something to really ask yourself is what label are you putting on something? And the reason is because if you've been listening to my podcast, which thank you, then you know I'm all about mindset. Mindset's what got me through Lyme disease. My mindset is the reason I beat Lyme disease. My mindset is the reason that I healed my body 100%. And my mindset is the reason that I got through a tumultuous, painful divorce. And my mindset is the reason I'm sitting here right now with you, speaking to you, and the reason that my book is about to come out this December. That is my mindset. So I'm going to talk a lot about it because your mindset determines your success in everything in life. But it's not just a one size fits all, like, well, this is what you do. There's a lot of layers. It's like peeling an onion. There's a ton of different layers to getting the right mindset. And so I'm going to have a lot of episodes where I'm sharing those kinds of tips with you and insights. I'm not a doctor, but I have a whole lot of wisdom and a lot of life experience. And I've seen firsthand with my clients the proof of having the right mindset. And so today specifically, I want to talk about putting labels on things. What label are you putting on something? And the reason is because that label determines how you react and how you go after something, how you think about it, um, whether whether you succeed in a certain area in your life. Um, and those labels, the labels are oftentimes it's one of two things in my opinion. Number one, it's a label that we have in our mind because that's what everybody else has, right? Like that's the label that someone else put on it, and 100, 1,000, a million people agree with that. So that's the label. And no one ever questions it, right? The other label is the one that we attach to it based upon our limiting beliefs. And if you've listened to any of the last few episodes, my book coming out, Unfuck Your Mind, December 11th, it's all about shattering your limiting beliefs to become who you were meant to be. One of those things is getting rid of the label, right? Tear that label off. So when you go buy something at the store, right? You go buy yourself a shirt, whatever, and it has that label on there. And the first thing you do is you tear that label off. You're like, this is mine now, right? I need you to do that same thing with all the areas of your life. If you put labels on there and those labels are holding you back, and you need to now rip it off and make it your own. Okay. I'm super big on visuals and descriptions like that because in my mind, it's a visual thing, right? You're ripping the label off and it's like, it's yours now. It's not theirs. Well, we need to do that in our lives, right? We need to rip the label off, rip the band-aid off, however you want to say it. And when you do that, you then can attach something else to it, right? And when I say attach something else to it, in other words, if you have a label on something like, well, this is bad, that's not going to work, then that's a label you've put on it. But if you rip it off and you're like, well, maybe this is good for me, maybe this will work, maybe this will succeed, well, then guess what? You actually have a shot at it succeeding. And so it's really, really important to do that in every area of your life. We put labels on people, we put labels on ourselves, our kids, our level of success. And I'm not just talking about limiting beliefs. That I'm literally talking about a label. We label things in our mind. We label people. We label careers, right? Like, well, that's what they do for a living. One of my biggest pet peeves. I've shared this before. I'm going to share it again. I'll probably share it even more after that. Is when you meet someone and you're around new people and they ask you where you went to school. What do you do for a living? And I get it, right? It's a common thing. And I don't, it's not that I mind it. It's just, it's really annoying because that doesn't just define a person at all. It really, really doesn't. Because sometimes we have to have shitty jobs to get to a good place. And what one person likes, it doesn't mean someone else does, right? And so we put labels on these things, and those labels are like, they're like band-aids to our insecurities, right? It's like, oh, this keeps me comfortable, and a label there and a label here, and I'm gonna put a label over there. And now I'm safe and I'm comfortable and all is good. Well, it's just gonna stay like that. Mediocrity. That's what you're gonna live in with all those damn labels. So rip the fucking things off, guys. Rip the labels off, rip the band-aids off. And when you do so, you're going to feel like you're exposed. Like, oh gosh, well, I don't know what to think about it. People need to start thinking for themselves. We let everyone else think for us, or we feel like we need to think how everyone else in this world thinks. And I absolutely hate that. Think for yourself. Grow some balls, so to speak, and speak for your damn self. Put whatever label you want to on something, but just make sure it's at least a label that's going to be good for you and not a label to hold you back or a label because that's what everyone else has. I really, really, I know without a shadow of a doubt that this works because I had to apply this in my own life. In my own life, I realized I had labels, and most of those labels were labels that I had just heard. And so I thought, well, then that's what it is because 1,000 other people, 100,000 other people say that's what it is. So that's what it is. When are you going to decide that you actually can think for yourself? When are you going to decide that every single thought that comes into your mind is not real? Does that sound crazy to you? Think about it. Think about all the thoughts that come into your mind. And it's just like their thoughts just running by. And you got to choose where you're going to be like, oh, nope, I want that one to stay. Come back. And that one needs to stay right here, right? It doesn't need to. You get to decide what you give truth to. Does that make sense? You need to decide what you give truth to. You don't have to believe every thought that comes into your mind. You don't have to believe every thought that someone else has, that they tell you. And in some of my last few episodes, I've specifically talked about setting boundaries, pulling the weeds. And those people in your life that give you labels and think that you need to believe their labels or that something's wrong with you if you have your own, those are the weeds, folks. Those are the people that you need to pull up and rip out. And so when you do that, you're able to think for yourself. You should only be surrounded by people that allow you and want you to think for yourself. So if you listen to the last 4 episodes that I've had, right? The last one was parenting with or without chains. Whether you're a parent or not, that one right there, that episode is a killer episode, solid gold. I don't normally pat my own back, but it's a good one. In fact, I pulled that episode from last week, parenting with or without chains, out of a chapter of my book. And it's really, really good. And whether you're a parent or not, like I said, listen to that chapter. And um, when you pull the weeds out of your life and you're able to think for yourself, then you can create your own labels, right? It's like we label things, but it needs to be something good, right? Because the labels that we put on things are really, truly just meant to protect ourselves. And then other people put them in our lives to protect them. And so, you know, whenever you start to think for yourself, then you're able to move in the right direction towards your goals, towards what you want. And that's what you need to do. Um, I really have applied this a lot into my life. And when I did that, there was a domino effect of what stopped working and what fell off and who fell off. And I think that reason right there is truly what scares people, is they don't want to disappoint people, they don't want to lose people, and they're scared of the unknown, right? It's like they know something's not good for them, they know these friends aren't good for them or this job or whatever it is, but they just continue to hold on to those people until they have something new. And that's just not how it works, right? It's not like, well, when I get what I want, then I'll get rid of all this stuff. Just replace it. You need to be able to be without those things. You need to be able to be with yourself. You need to be able to let go of all that's not serving you well. Figure shit out on your own. Find your own happiness. Accept and love yourself. Approve of yourself. And when you do that, you don't need anyone else to make you happy. You're not attaching your happiness. You don't need anyone's approval. Who gives a shit what they think? You don't need somebody to love you because you don't need a relationship. You love yourself. And when you love yourself, you no longer allow for crap to be in your life. Now, if I would have heard someone say this to me 5 years ago, 10 years ago, anytime back, it would have annoyed the hell out of me. I'm like, what the fuck are they talking about? Of course you need somebody to love you. Well, you do. You need yourself. You need you to love yourself. And it's really hard to understand that when you don't love yourself. It's almost impossible. And some of these concepts, it's really, really hard for people to grasp. They understand it. They get it. Oh, they get it. And they want it. They want it in their lives. But the part of applying it and doing it, it's like, that makes me uncomfortable. What have I said time and time again? If you remember, I've said you grow in the discomfort. You got to get uncomfortable to grow, right? Think about a kid having growing pains, right? It's like, oh, their knees hurt, their back hurts, they don't feel that great. Their body's growing. It's not comfortable. But then they're bigger. It's the same with us. When you grow, it's going to be a little uncomfortable, but then you're going to be a level up or 2 or 3 than where you were before in life. And I promise you that's better, right? You got to keep climbing the damn mountain. You don't ever stop until the day you die. You keep climbing, you keep growing, you keep learning, you keep living. You don't ever stop living. I'm not here on life to be like, what do I got to do so I don't die? I'm more like, what do I got to do to live? Shit. What do I have to do to live? I have one life to live. It's not my husband's, it's not my kids, it's not my sisters, it's not my friends, it's not my exes, it's not my parents. My life that I have to live is my fucking life. And it's the same for my children and my husband and my parents and da 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 da. Get it? It's like, oh, I don't want to upset anybody. You don't want to upset yourself. How about that? You don't want to upset yourself. I am very passionate about the mindset and about people getting the fuck out of their own way. Hence the name of my book, Unfuck Yourself. Well, actually, it's Unfuck Your Mind. Same thing. People just stand in their own way and they create all of these little things, these little boundaries, these little walls. I'm like, oh, this is protecting me, right? Everything's safe. Got my box, right? I'm safe. Safe from what? Safe from winning? Safe from success? Safe from true love? Safe from happiness? Safe from living the life that you are put here to live? I was absolutely mind blown, as I've said before, when I decided a year ago, 1 year ago, it's been a year, it's been 14 months. It was August of 22 when I set my kids down and I said, look, I don't want to just be a nutritionist anymore. I really have big dreams. And, I felt kind of stupid saying it like, this sounds so cheesy. I was like, I want to have a podcast. I want to speak on stage. I want to write a book. And there's a lot of people that want that. There's a lot of people that do it. They're not that great at it. A lot of people. But I just really wanted it. Like it was put inside of me a long time ago and I felt it. But I didn't really voice it to many people because with my ex, if I voiced anything like that, I was reminded of how stupid I was and how I wouldn't make it. And I just remember I set my kids down and I told them that. And they're like, oh, yes, Mom. Yeah, you need to do that. I didn't need their permission. I just wanted them to know that their opinion matters. And when I did that, when I said yes to the universe, I didn't know anybody. I didn't have one fucking connection. Not one. My mentor I have now, who's become a dear, dear friend, Amberly Longo, who's huge, by the way. I didn't know her, but I put myself out there, scared shitless, I might say. And for women listening, when you are the new girl and you walk into a room with 50 other women, beautiful women who are as successful as you hope to be one day, and that's a little intimidating. I mean, I almost walked out, but I didn't. And here I am today. My book is going to come out. Hell, the book was for a goal for year 2. The podcast was for year 1. Here I am, the second season of my podcast. My book, I have fully written that manuscript. I've poured my heart and soul into those 17 chapters, and it comes out December 11th this year. I have already spoken on a big stage. I'm going to speak on 2 more I already have lined out next year. I didn't know one person, right? I didn't have the, the connections. I went out and I made it from scratch. I didn't know what the hell to do. I didn't know how to work this damn equipment. I didn't know how to do any of this crap. I figured it out because I wanted it. I figured it out because I took the labels off of what other people might think. Let me tell you something. When I say I don't give 2 shits about what someone thinks, I fucking mean it. You know why? Because if they're saying something that is demeaning to me or they don't agree with me, then I don't want them in my life. Because the people who love me unconditionally are truly here to support me. They're on my side. So I already know that they just agree with me and they want me happy. I had to take the label off, folks. That's my point here. I had to take the label off of what other people attach to it. What my ex-husband attached to it. Oh my gosh, social media is stupid. You're never gonna a podcast, nobody's gonna listen to you. And I let that label stay on me for too long until I ripped that motherfucker off. And I put my own label on me, but you know what my label says? I can and I will and I am. And I'm fucking doing it. I think the proof is pretty obvious. So stop sitting there moping, telling yourself, well, she has the right connection. She knows someone. No. Get up, put your big girl panties on, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, however you want to say it. I'm from Texas. That's how we say it. And take the labels off that other people have put on you and in your life and what you want to do, and take the own labels off that you've put on yourself, that you put there to tell yourself you can't do something. Take the label off and see what happens. And replace it with a label that speaks to you and to who you are and to what you are put here to be. I'll tell you this, it feels pretty good when you do. It is very freeing when you cut those invisible chains, when you take those negative bullshit labels off. It feels really damn good. I had labels on me for too long. I mean, you could have just looked at me if there were real stickers, labels, and there'd have been 100 of them. People try to put the labels on me, and then I allowed them to. You are the one who allows someone to put a label on you. It's like, here you go, here's your label, and then you took it. Like, oh, thanks. I'll put it right here. Boom. And you let it stay there. I had labels, you cuss too much. You're just, you're goofy. You're too opinionated. Yeah, okay, awesome. Apparently that bothers you. You're a weed, plucked out, adios. My label says I do cuss too much, and I'm okay with it. I am goofy. I love it. I am opinionated. Always will be. Thank you. Does that make sense? I was told my whole life some of these things like, gosh, you cuss too much, especially women, right? There's the women like, oh my God, she just cussed. Like, where's your manners? Look, I don't walk around into, if when I'm at a professional event and cuss, there's a time and a place. This is my podcast. And if I want to fucking cuss, I will. There's a time and a place. The thing is that when you fully love yourself and you accept yourself for who you are, and you create your own happiness and you're not attaching it to anything, that's when you don't give a shit what anybody else thinks. That's when you own who you are. I know the things about me that I needed to change, and I changed it. And I am always going to be a work in progress, because the moment I said, oh, I don't need to change anything about myself, that's the moment I stopped growing and learning. And that's when I stopped living. I hope that this message resonated all with you well today. And I would love to know what you think. So leave a comment, send me an email, let me know anything else you want me to talk about, and please share. Love you all.